Good day, students. Welcome to another English class. Our last lesson we discussed question tag. Today we're going to look at sentences by function or purpose. So listen carefully so that you'll understand better. Now let's look at the definition of a sentence. I know most of you, of course, know how to define a sentence, and here we're going to give you a definition that will also help you understand better. Now look at the board. We have a definition here. What is a sentence? Good. So a sentence is a group of words that makes complete sense. So when we say makes a complete sense, it simply means that it gives you better understanding. If I say something in a sentence, you will obviously understand it. But if I do not put it in a sentence form, you might find it difficult to understand. So in order for people to understand you very well, you should always speak in sentences and write in sentences. Now we move on. A sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with a correct punctuation mark. What are the punctuation marks that end sentences? They are either full stop, exclamation mark, or question mark. There are other punctuation marks, but then those punctuation marks will not end a sentence. So for your sentence to be correctly punctuated and ended, you need to use either of full stop, exclamation mark, or question mark. Now, let's consider the following examples. The rain lasted for 2 hours. Number 2, when did you finish your primary education? Number 3, you get out of my office. If we examine the 3 examples given above, example 1 ends with full stop, and example 2 ends with a question mark, and example 3 ends with exclamation mark. Now, why do these 3 sentences have different punctuation marks? Why all of them did not end with full stop, or did not end with question mark, or did not end with exclamation mark? You will get to know that while the lesson is progressing. Let's move on. Good. Sentences by functions or purpose. Sentences are classified according to the function or work they do. Based on this, sentences are grouped into 4 types. What are they? You can see them on the board. Declarative sentences, otherwise called statement sentence. Imperative sentence, otherwise called command sentence. Interrogative sentence, otherwise called questioning sentence. Exclamatory sentence. These are the 4 types of sentences by function. Let's move on. Good. We look at them one after the other. We're going to start with declarative sentence. What type of sentence is this? This is a sentence that makes a statement. That is why the other name is statement sentence. The statement either expresses a fact or an opinion. When you make a statement, your statement expresses 2 things, either a fact or an opinion. So declarative sentences end with full stop. Let's look at the examples on the board. Fatu is a girl. It ends with full stop, and of course, it's a statement which is factual. Example 2, she is the ugliest girl in the class. opinion. To you, she might be the ugliest. To me, she's the most beautiful. So it ends with full stop. Number 3, today is the hottest day. That's your feeling. It's an opinion. All right? So it ends with full stop. I am eating lunch. Fact. Number 5, Mariama is Fatu's mother. Another fact. So all these sentences are statement sentences, therefore they end with full stop. So we understand that all statement sentences end with full stop. You cannot say, I am eating lunch, and you end with a question mark, because it is a statement sentence, and all statement sentences end with full stop. That's good. We move on. The other type of sentence we're going to look at is imperative sentence. This is a sentence that tells someone to do or not to do something. In other words, imperative sentence gives advice, instruction, or express a command or a request. Imperative sentences don't usually have obvious subject. In English, of course, we will do that as the lesson is going on. We're going to look at elements of sentence where we look at the subject, the verb, the object, etc. But these type of sentences don't usually have obvious subject. We'll come to learn that while the lesson is going on. Let's move on. Now, let's get this. Stop writing. This is command. And there's no subject here. What do you have? Stop writing. You have a verb and a noun. Whereas the subject is hidden, means you stop writing. Please do not beat him. Request. And there's no subject, obviously. It should have been you. Please don't beat him. Another one, number 3, go to the gate and turn right. Instruction. And the subject is not seen here in the sentence. Number 4, you should study hard. Advice. Number 6, sit down. You give him a command. There's no subject, but we say the subject is understood. What is it? You sit down. Number 6, please get me some water. Request. Number 7, go to the office and call Mr. Jallo. Instruction. Number 8, you should not go to the field. This gives advice. So if you look at all these sentences, none of them carry a subject. Why? Because they are imperative sentences. So we move on. So we're going to look at the other type of sentence, which is interrogative sentence. This is a sentence that asks a question. It is used to request information. In writing, we know there are questions because they have question marks at the end. In speaking, we know there are questions because of the context or situation, and often because of the information. So we look at the examples. Is that your father? I'm asking a question. Therefore, I end with a question mark. Where are you? A question mark. Because I'm asking a question. How long have you been waiting? It ends with a question mark because I'm asking a question. So here you cannot end with full stop. How much did you buy your watch? Number 5, when are you going home? All these sentences end with question marks because they are used to ask questions. Okay? So we move on. Statements ask questions. We look at number one. That's your father. You are happy? He is your brother? Fatu is a teacher. The shop is closed. So these are statements in a question form. We move on. Now we move on to look at types of interrogative sentences. Interrogative sentences are classified into 5 types. These are 1 WH questions. These are sentences that begin with WH words, such as who, what, when, why, where, and how. Look at the examples here. What is your father's occupation? It ends with question mark because it is an interrogative sentence. Who is your math teacher? Why don't you submit your work? Why didn't you submit your work? When is your birthday? So all these sentences end with question mark because they are asking questions. So any sentence that asks questions must end with a question mark. Now we move on to the other type of interrogative sentences. You have yes or no questions. These are questions that require an affirmative, positive, or negative response. They are also called polar questions. They are formed by using auxiliary verbs. Example, have you done your assignment? Have you done the assignment? Number 2, is he your father? Number 3, are you computer literate? Number 4, was the teacher in school yesterday? Number 5, do you have a book? Now, understand one thing, yes or no question requires a short answer. For instance, if the question asks, have you done the assignment? Your answer could be, yes, I did my assignment. Or no, I didn't do my assignment. Is he your father? No, he's my uncle. Yes, he is my father. In writing, when you write yes, comma must come before you say my father. For instance, you said, is he your uncle? You said, yes, comma, he is my father, full stop. Or you said, no, comma, he's my uncle. So we move on. Are you computer literate? No. I am not computer literate. Was the teacher in school yesterday? Yes, he was in school. Or no, he was not in school. Do you have a book? Yes, I have a book. No, I do not have a book. Let's move on. We also have question tag, which we discussed in our previous lessons. So here we say question tag is a question placed at the end of a statement or a command. It normally appears after a comma and ends with a question mark. We use tag to ask for confirmation. When you use question tag, you don't need an answer, as we explained in our previous lesson. So we say, Modu is our head boy. Isn't he? You are hungry, aren't you? So this our question tag ends with a question mark. We move on. We also look at alternative questions. So these are questions that give opinion in the sentence. The response to such questions has to be one of the opinions given. They always contain the coordinating conjunction or. Example, is the principal tall or short? You are given opinion here, whether the principal is tall or he is short. Number 2, are we going today or tomorrow? You are given opinion, alternative, today or tomorrow. Number 3, is she your sister or niece? Number 4, are we doing English or maths? So this is what we call alternative questions because they give opinion. We move on. Now we look at also another type of sentence, which is exclamatory sentences. These are sentences that express a strong feeling. They express joy, sadness, pain, fear, etc. They end with an exclamation mark. Example, that's lovely. Number 2, what a fool you are. Number 3, oh, that hurts. 4, what an intelligent girl she is. Number 5, it is a goal. Now, if you observe these 5 examples, they express different feelings. We move on. Now we're going to look at rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions don't require any answer. These are questions that do not require any response. Examples, why should I care? If somebody said that, he does not need an answer. Didn't he know that he should study hard? No response is needed. Who wants to die a beggar? How is that my business? Should I answer such foolish questions? So all these questions don't require answers. Why? Because they are rhetorical questions. If I should say, am I not your father? I don't need an answer because I already know that I'm your father. All right? So when you use rhetorical questions, you don't need any answer. Now we move on. So we're going to look at elements of sentence. We discussed that a sentence is a group of words that makes a complete sense. And we also discussed that a sentence has a subject and a verb. But not only that, sentences have elements. So what are those elements? We're coming to study them today. There are 5 main elements in sentence. These are subject, verb, object, complement, adverbial. So these elements, we're going to study them one after the other. Let's move on. We look at the first element here. The first element is the subject. The subject in a statement, sentence, usually appears before the verb. The subject could be a noun or pronoun, noun phrase, or noun clause. The subject may be the doer of the action or the entity being discussed in the sentence. This means that the subject does not do an action all the time in the sentence. In certain sentences, the subject does not do any action. So let's look at the examples we have in the board. He went home in the morning. Our subject here is he, pronoun. What did he do? He went. Lamin finished the lunch. Our subject here is Lamin, which is noun. What did he do? He finished the lunch. Number 3, I didn't attend the party last night. Our subject here is I, which is pronouns. And number 4, the car hit the dog on the road. Number 5, I call you, but you didn't receive. So all these are subjects that appears before the verb. As we said, in a statement sentence, the subject usually appears before the verb. If you look at example 1, when is the verb? And you have the word he before, and you have Lamin as the subject and the verb finish. And you also have I didn't attend. I is the subject, did not attend as the verb phrase. The car hit the dog. Our subject, the car, before the verb hit. And I call you. Our subject is I, appears before the verb call. We move on. We move on to look at the verb. Good. The other element is the verb, which is the most important element in the sentence. Without a verb, you cannot make a sentence. You can make a sentence without other elements, but without a verb, you cannot make a sentence. So we look at this. What is a verb? The verb is a doing or action word or state of being. The verb is the most important part of the sentence. The verb usually comes after the subject. Examples, he went home in the morning. He went home in the morning. Our verb is went, comes after the subject he. The verb is the most important element in the sentence. Without a verb, you cannot make a sentence. The verb is a doing or action word or state of being. The verb is the most important part of the sentence. The verb usually comes after the subject. Examples, he went home in the morning. Our subject is he, and the verb went. And you can see the verb comes after the subject he. Example 2, Lamin finished the lunch. Finish is the verb, and Lamin is the subject. And finished comes after the subject Lamin. I didn't attend the party last night. Our verb is didn't attend, which comes after the subject I. The car hit the dog on the road. The verb here is hit, which comes after the subject, the car. I call you, but you didn't receive. I call you, but you didn't receive. So our subject here is I, and the verb here is what? Call. Comes after the subject. In the same sentence, of course, we can see another subject and another verb. The other subject is you, and the other verb is didn't. So we said you cannot make a sentence without a verb. Let's get back to our, okay, when we say he went home. Now let us remove the verb when. What do you get? He home in the morning. Does it make sense? No. Example 2, Lamin finished the lunch. Let's remove finish from our sentence. What do we have? Lamin the lunch. Would that make sense? No. I didn't attend the party last night. Let us remove the verb didn't attend. What do we get? I the party last night. So here we understand that without the verb, you cannot make a sentence. So we move on to the third element, which is the object. The object of the verb appears after a main verb and is the receiver of the action of the verb. So the object is either a noun or pronoun. It could be a noun phrase or a noun clause. Let's look at our examples here. Lamin finished the lunch. Here is Lamin, who is the subject of our sentence. And he did something. What did he do? He finished. What did he finish? The lunch. So the lunch becomes the object of the verb because it received the actions. So we move on. I didn't attend the party last night. Our object here is the party. So we look at the car hit the dog on the road. What is the subject? The car. That did something. What did the car do? It hit. Who received it? The dog. So obviously the dog becomes the object. Number 4, the boy kicked the ball. Our subject here is the boy who did something. What did the boy do? He kicked. What did he kick? The ball. So the ball becomes the object because he receives the action. Number 5, he sent the boy. He sent the boy. Our subject is he who did something. What did he do? He sent. Whom did he send? The boy. So here we understand that the object always comes after a lexical verb and receives the actions of the verb. As you see them in example 1, example 2, 3, 4, up to example 5. We move on. Now the other element is we call complement. The complement comes after a linking verb. It completes the meaning of the sentence. We look at the examples. I am a teacher. And you also understand that complement is always a noun or pronoun, or could be a noun phrase or noun clause. My friend is a nurse. So the linking verb here is am, was, is. When you say I am, you stop. People will not understand what are you. But when you tell them I am a teacher, now everybody knows what you are. When you say my friend is, you stop there. We would not know what your friend is. But when you tell us my friend is a nurse, we automatically understand what is he. His uncle was a driver. When you say his uncle was, and we stop there, we are not communicating. So we need a complement to complete the meaning of the sentence. This is why when you say his uncle was, you need to add up a driver. Number 4, Papa Omar is a soldier. When you say Papa Omar is, you stop there. People will not understand. Of course, they will know that you're talking about Papa Omar. But what about what? So you add a complement, a soldier. Number 5, she is my wife. If you say she is, you stop. People will not understand. But when you add the complement, my wife, of course, everybody understands. Now we move on to the other element. The other element is the adverbial. The adverbial has no traditional place to appear in a sentence. If you look at the subject, we discussed that it appears before the verb. Now the verb appears after the subject. The object appears after a lexical verb. Complement appears after a linking verb. But adverbial is unlike that. It doesn't have any traditional place to appear in a sentence. Therefore, the adverbial could appear almost everywhere in the sentence, and the functions will remain the same. The adverbial modifies the verb in the sentence. The adverb could appear almost everywhere in the sentence. Examples: Fatu sings melodiously. So this is the adverb modifying the verb sings. Without adverbs, you can also make a sentence. You can say Fatu sings, and it makes sense. But how does he sing is not known. We bring in adverb to modify. We said Fatu sings beautifully, or Fatu sings melodiously, or Fatu sings nicely. Now, let's look at this. Can we say Fatu sings good? Fatu sings good? No. Because good is adjective and sings is verb. So adjectives don't modify verbs. So you either say Fatu sings melodiously, or Fatu sings beautifully, or Fatu sings nicely. We move on. They played well yesterday. Now here you can see two adverbs, well and yesterday. You can say they played well. You stop. So the well here added meaning to the verb or modifying the verb played. And as I said earlier, you can have a sentence without adverb. You can say they played and you stop. It makes sense. But why do you need to add adverb to tell people what time did they play or how did they play? So when you say they played well, you tell them that the manner in which they played. All right? Or you say they played yesterday. You tell them the time that they played. Or you say they played well yesterday. Here you tell them the manner in which they played and the time that they played. So we move on. Modu behave respectfully. Behave respectfully. The math teacher explained comprehensively. How are you? I am fine. Fine is also an adverb modifying the verb am. So here we understand that in English, you cannot say I am good, because good is adjective, and adjectives don't modify verbs. So when you say how are you, the correct response is I am fine. Good. I told you earlier that adverb does not have traditional place to appear in a sentence. Therefore, you can revise them. You can say Fatu melodiously sings. He said, Modu, yesterday they played well. All right? So all these adverbs can be reversed to appear between the subject and the verb, and the meaning remains the same. Let's move on. Good. So in summary, a sentence is a group of words that makes complete sense. A sentence begins with a capital letter and ends with a correct punctuation mark. These punctuation marks are full stop, exclamation mark, and question mark. So types of sentences we have: declarative sentence, imperative sentence, interrogative sentence, exclamatory sentence. There are 5 main elements in sentence. These are subject, verb, object, complement, and adverbial. Now let us do this classwork before we leave. Let us read the instruction. Apply the right punctuation mark to end in each of the following sentences. Number 1, is that your pen? What do we need? A full stop, a comma, exclamation mark, question mark. We need a question mark. Right, we move on. Sit down here. What do we need? A full stop, exclamation mark, or question mark. We need a full stop because it's a command. We move on. Fatu is my sister. What do we need? Full stop, isn't it? Because it's a statement sentence. Let's move on. How long have you been waiting? A question, then we need a question mark. Am I not talking to you? What do we need here? Full stop? No. A question mark? Yes, because it's a rhetorical question. Then we put question mark, we go. Are we not saying the same thing? Question mark, isn't it? We go. Oh, I cut my finger. Exclamation mark we need. I love that story. What do we use? Full stop, exclamation mark, or question mark? Now let me repeat. I love that story. We need exclamation mark. But if I should say, I love that story, then we need full stop. Is that good? All right, let's move on. Let us move on. Good. Now take this assignment before our next class. Form 2 sentences from each sentence element. 1, subject, verb, object, complement, and adverbial. Each of these sentence elements, use them to form your own sentences. Do them before next class so that we can do the correction before we start. Thank you very much for your kind attention. As we always advise you, stay at home, focus on your TV, study your notes, avoid going out, always wash your hand with soap. So I wish you all the best until our next meeting. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.